What's up, guys? I'm Daemonxel, and raid progression. Where are you sitting after a few weeks of raids, especially now with the changes to the Moria Bomber in Chapter 1, as well as the speed changes of those other units in the other chapters? How did it help your score? How did it help my score? Well, let's talk about it. Alright, I have pulled up the statistics of my raids through the guild that I've joined over the last 4 weeks. This shows all the raids that I've taken a part of since joining that guild, and my score and where it sits, and you can definitely see where it bumps up with the new raid. Now, before we get into these statistics, tell me in the comments below or hit me up on Discord and tell me what you guys feel about those changes. Are you loving the new changes? I know I love the new changes in Chapter 1. It adds more flexibility, it adds versatility to it. Yes, there is still aspects of RNG to it, and where it goes and how it's doing it, but with that in play, I did find that I struggled a little bit more this past week with Chapter 2 and with Chapter 3. I believe those speed buffs helped out a little bit in hurting where I was going. Obviously, I did it, to try and top my last score and everything, but I know in Chapter 3 this past week, I was not able to touch the same scores I did with previous teams. And Chapter 2, for some reason, seemed even harder this week than it did last week. And I know that has nothing to do with any of the changes, but I'm not sure if it was tweaked or maybe it's just me being crazy, but it just seemed like Chapter 2 hit a little bit harder after the changes went into effect. So, what I have here first is the statistics for the first week I joined that was able to help in that raid. And this was the week of 9/13, the beginning of September, like that, the second week in September. And as you can see, I started off, now, obviously, I screwed up in Chapter 1. I misjudged the time, and I fell asleep, and when I woke up, I missed the raid window. So, yes, I only got 3 shots in this week, so my score for Chapter 1 was 794. But in this breakdown, we changed the breakdown since then, but this breakdown, the top score I hit was 416,000, and the minimum score I hit was 184,000. In Chapter 2, I hit a grand score, total of 795, and in Chapter 3, I was able to score 1.2 million in points. So it gives me a grand total of 2.8 million points for that first week of raid. So personally, this helped out a lot, getting shards. Now, I found this funny because before getting into this guild, the guild I was in previously struggled with the raids. We were not able to get into Chapter 2. In fact, we weren't able to get into Chapter 2 before Chapter 3 was coming out. So, I did not know at the time that you could collect personal achievement scores each chapter. So, I found it pleasantly surprising that by touching these high scores, I'm able to basically double the amount of gold I had coming in, as well as raid currency used to buy light and shadow crystals or whatever I needed. So, let's move to the second raid I was able to join in. And this is where we changed it, where we didn't show min-max teams, we just showed where we are, difference between the previous raid and this raid. So, this week, Chapter 1, I got all 5 attacks in. 1.2 million on that first chapter. I did better in Chapter 2, the second week, 871,000. And in Chapter 3, 1.3 million in that chapter. So I actually topped my score. I got 3.5 million. I topped it by 660,000 from the previous week. Now that is because I've been building up the same teams each week. Now what I was focusing on, and I'll go into the teams after we go through all these statistics, but my main team, my main Rush team, is the Rivendell Elves with Elrond, followed up by Isengard, followed up by then the Haradrim, and then the Rohan 3, and then the last team is basically just thrown together. Now, on certain weeks, I have taken out substituted characters, like in Rivendell, I may have taken out Lomian, and put Naramiri in. I may have taken Lomian out and put Gazra Ironhide in it. I also have maybe run him with Isengard, but it was always some way of throwing another character in. And the last, because I don't have 5 fully fleshed out teams, my Team 5 seems to be somewhat of a hybrid team, depending on which chapter I'm in, especially in Chapter 2, and the leftovers, I try to get them to either have healing, cleansing, but multi-attack. Like with Legolas, I'm able to hit 2 times. With Naramiri, I'm able to hit 2 times. Stuff like that. I like those double hits, so each one will hit for a little bit more, and I think it helps out my score a little bit. Obviously, I'm going to be fleshing out more teams and everything, but as you can see, I did better the second weekend. So moving on to the third week of the raids, I did a little bit better here as well. 1.3 million on the Chapter 1. I dropped back down to 750,000 on Chapter 2 raid, and I touched a all-time high for me, 1.4 million on Chapter 3. So my score went up slightly. It went up by, a couple hundred, maybe almost 300,000. So 3.6 million. I went up 81,000 in the first chapter, down 118,000, up 122,000. Oh, sorry. So my total across the board was only 85,000 on that total. Now, we come into last week's raid, and this is the changes to the Moria Bomber, to the speed of the other units. And in this week, as you can see, everyone scored high. I hit an all-time high of almost 2 million on Chapter 1. I got 1.9 million in Chapter 1. Chapter 2, I got 1 million. 1,028,000 in Chapter 2. And I dropped back down Chapter 3. Like I said, I found some of the changes a little bit. Obviously, I did better than I thought I was going to do in Chapter 2, even though I didn't touch that all-time high score with my main team, but my follow-up teams were basically all in a line and scored a little bit higher. So all that little bit, even though you're not touching that ultimately high score what you're aiming for, like a 900k or 800, 700k, as long as you follow up with your other teams, your overall score will do great. And as you see here in Chapter 3, I dropped back down to 1.2 million. So I got an overall score of 4.2 million. So I was up 601,000 from the previous raid. That's all due to those changes. So up 500,000 in Chapter 1, up 275,000 from the previous week in Chapter 2, and I dropped down 235,000 in Chapter 3. So, and this is like with my guild, this is the first time I've ever hit 900,000 on Chapter 1. So I had to screenshot it. But yeah, let's open up the game and I'll show you exactly what I'm working with, what my raid teams are, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to bring up just Elves because I use a mixture on my first team. So in Chapter 1, my main team obviously is my Rivendell Elves. So that is Elrond, Arwen, LoTR, and Eladin. But sometimes I will substitute out Lomian for Naramiri. So Chapter 1, this week I ran these 5. Chapter 2, I substituted Naramiri in for Lomian because I wanted the higher DPS. And that's where I hit some big issues. I just kept getting stomped before the first topple. And it just seemed harder to... Obviously, I did great, you know, for what my team is and what I'm scoring. Obviously, I am hitting several bottlenecks in the game right now. I am needing ability materials. I am needing character XP. That is my main bottleneck currently right now. In the throwaway team, or my team 5, I am using Legolas. I am using Leliel on certain chapters for stealth. But my other team, let's go to my secondary team, which is Isengard. Oh. Sorry. Let's bring this back here. And as you see, I'm not fully built out. I do not have the same kind of roster as a lot of whales or a lot of other players. I went wide in the beginning. But currently right now, I am gear tier 8 on most of my Isengard team. But as you can see, they're not even level 50. And I need to bring them up star level wise. I'm still working on them. But I need to get their overall power higher to do better, because currently right now I can only really run these guys, except for Chapter 3, in difficulty 2, trying to touch that 300k. Trying to do Chapter 1 with this team, the resistance is too high. I'm not able to stick the blinds. I'm not able to get the sustain going that I need to get this team. Now, that's just running this team as it is. Sometimes, like I said, I will substitute out, like, Morzra out for Ironhide. I will substitute Ajak out for someone else. It's all what you can do in that mode. Now, obviously, in a perfect world, I would like all these characters 60, fleshed out fully, and to be able to do it. But they are a little bit slower. So, when I say raid teams, I mean, like, overall, for all chapters, not specifically each chapter, like I said, because I do some piecemeal work. Third team is the Rohan 3, plus Strider, and so we're just going to go Human, Strider, and Halbarad. As you can see, I'm not fully worked out on them. They are not leveled fully, so I got Elmer up almost to 7 stars. I need to promote Strider, but they, again, are in the low 40s. Also, I have the Horadrim here, too, so you can see my Horadrim. I'll bring that up separately. Eothane, I only have him at 3 stars. I'm just running into roadblocks as it is. So I'm not doing very well with the Rohan 3, so they are basically my fourth team. Horadrim would be my third team. They're a little bit better. I like shadow characters more so. I have these a little bit more leveled, but star power, I need to get them up. I need to get them geared, because currently, right now, they're only 2 at gear 6, 2 at gear 7. We need to get them all up to G8, and I need to get their abilities up to 4s, because currently right now, only some abilities are at 4, and the ones that I focus on are the passives, and the reason being is because, remember, this is just like the Galaxy of Star Wars Galaxy Heroes and Phoenix Squad, where they all share the passives. So I made it a point to level the passives on each of them before everything else, so they can all be able to do the Black Serpent's poison, be able to poison this, share all that, get the unbreakables. That was to me the key to the squad. And again, the last team is just whatever I have left over that is leveled. I am currently focusing on now trying to get the dwarvings up with Lord Balin, trying to get some dwarves and a secondary elf team going. But as you can see, even with struggling teams, you are able to touch pretty good scores personally across the board and still zero in on your personal growth. So that's where I am. I hope you guys are feeling the same changes, same way about these changes that I am, that they're very good. And moving forward, I hope we get more adaptability as well. Let me know in the comments or on Discord what you guys feel, how you guys like the changes or don't like the changes, how you guys are doing in your raids. Until I talk to you again, have a great week, have a great weekend, adventure safe, and good luck to you and your fellowship.